Gents, depth chart defense. I don't know if we're gonna have time to do chalk talk. People are gonna be mad at me. Maybe we can fly through this and then we'll have time to do it. Let's hope. All right. So here is the newest, latest, more improved depth chart from our lads. Let's start in the middle with the big boys, defensive tackle. Okay. They got Kenny Clark at the nose, Devontae White as the defensive tackle. You guys know there's going to be two on the field there, right? Whether you're in a 4-3 base or you're nickel 4-2-5. So Kenny Clark, Devontae White. They've actually got Nazir Stackhouse as your backup nose tackle. Carl Brooks as the backup defensive tackle. Then after that, it's Warren Brinson, Kobe Wooden, and then Keith Randolph and James Esther. I want to get your all's take on this, Tim. I know you're going to have to hop off here in a minute probably. Let me start with you in case you have to go after this segment. Defensive tackle, Kenny and Devontae. Do you feel like it's Nas? Nas is definitely the backup nose tackle? Because last year, Carl Brooks surprisingly played a little nose as the backup when TJ Slayton wasn't available.
Well, when it comes to Nas and Carl Brooks, you use this statement every time.
Thick.
So I do think there's some truth to that, though. In all seriousness, we talked about the void in the run fits, especially on the nose or the three sometimes. Losing T.J. Slayton. So when I see Big Nas Stackhouse out there, it does. He looks the part, and they just got to polish him up a little bit. I really believe that he could be that guy.
Yeah, and Warren Brinson. That's what's surprising to me is our lads having Stackhouse over Warren Brinson, with Warren Brinson being that draft pick, obviously.
Yeah, and Brinson's look good too. Maybe the people that make millions of dollars a year to analyze players know a little more than we do, I guess.
and if you take that stance, Tim, who have they put on the field more? Right, surprised it was Stackhouse.
Big Nas Stackhouse. Yep,
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a knock on Brinson, right? It's just we always talk about this. Players develop at different rates, different paces, different ways. They fit into schemes differently at different times. So, I'm not panicking at all. I think Warren Brinson's going to have a fine career in the National Football League, but right now I think Stack's got the lead right now.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tim. Like you said, how certain players fit in certain positions in times of need. I think right now, losing a guy like TJ Slayton, we just need somebody that is a little more of just an absolute, boulder in the middle of that defense, a dog, if you will. But I did see somebody in the comments said, I see him keeping 6 DTs. And when you look at it, it is hard to argue with that logic because, the guy that I called out, and I think a lot of the chat called out, and guys like Coach Lynn, I know in the chat said, watch out for Kobe Wooden. He's looked good. Kobe Wooden had a great game. And what's really cool too is, I don't know if you guys covered this on one of the shows I missed, but I didn't realize that they did a graduation ceremony. Matt LaFleur put that on for him. Post one of the practices, he actually had his mom come there. They mimicked that he was getting his diploma from college and everything. And I don't know if that maybe was a little spark to Wooden to kind of, get him a little more amped up, but I really love the fact that he took a step. I feel like Carl Brooks, that would be one of the bigger surprises ever if for whatever reason he didn't make the team. But like Tim said, I do believe Brinson's going to have a good career. And I think Stackhouse maybe just is flashing a little earlier than Brinson. And, that's, again, great problem to have. Great depth in another group.
Jacob, I'm pretty sure it was Wes or Mike Spofford that was talking about it. I'm pretty sure it happened Saturday morning. He was gonna go travel to Auburn and walk, but he wanted to be there for the guys and play and everything. And just the fact that, they flew his mom in and all that was just awesome. And really when we signed him, when he was 270, he's put on 30 pounds. Basically,
is he really?
Here. Yeah, he's sitting at he's sitting at 300 now. So, I mean, and he was my bubble guy for a while. I honestly think he's making a strong case to be locked in for the 53 at this point, the way he's been, kind of stringing days together and just getting better and honestly years together at this point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. All right, let's move it along here. Defensive end, Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, and you got Brenton Cox Jr., Kingsley Nigbore, Baron Sorrell, Colin Oliver. Obviously, Colin Oliver still banged up and hurt. Behind them, we got Aaron Mosby and Deslin Alexander. The big thing for me, Baron Sorrell looked the part, albeit just one partial preseason game. And Igbore went out there and absolutely flashed, So it kind of feels like they've got this in the proper order here. I believe we would carry probably, if I had to guess, I would say 5, maybe 6, depending on if Colin Oliver's healthy. If Colin Oliver starts on the PUP list, I have no reason to think he is going to, just simply stating that he's been banged up to this point, probably a little bit behind schedule. If Colin Oliver goes to PUP, I think we only break camp with 5 edge defenders. Baron Sorrell will be that 5th, and there's really not a whole lot to talk about here unless I'm missing something, yes?
I would agree. Yeah. I think it hinges all on Colin Oliver's availability, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And they Hafley said that, that Colin Oliver has been strictly in the defensive end room, that they're not trying to cross-train him while he's working through this injury. Went on to say that they want him back and that right now necessarily it's not working out the way that obviously either side wanted it to, but at one point they're going to need him. He said that we're going to need him. So that to me kind of indicates that they do see a future with him and being on the 53 active whenever he can be. And I will just say one other thing is that he went on to talk about how Baron Sorrell, how they're experimenting with him at 3 tech, at 4 tech, at 5, and different types of packages where they feel like he actually does have the capability to do that. We obviously know that they trust LVN to do some crazy stuff inside too, just with his brute strength. So it's there it is right there, baby.
No doubt about it. Let's see here. So Edge, Emilio, we good? Anything else?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, I'm totally cool with those 6. And honestly, having Aaron Mosby as the backup practice squad guy doesn't
or
make
Alexander.
Doesn't
make
me mad,
Alexander,
right?
Yes,
because
sleep on those guys,
at least they've seen a little bit of reps, so I like that.
Yeah. All right, let's move it along to linebacker real quick. Our lads has let's see here. Quay Walker at the wheel, Adrian Cooper at the mic. You guys know in the 4-2-5, that's very, very interchangeable. I feel real confident based off how Matt LaFleur and Jeff Hafley have talked. Quay Walker will be wearing the green dot, so he will be your quote-unquote mock, although we know it just depends on what the call is, whether those guys line up in the mock or the wheel. So Quay, Adrian Cooper at the top. Then they've got listed Isaiah Simmons, Isaiah McDuffie, and then Tyron Hopper, Christian Welch. I would have agreed with this going into last week, but now I kind of feel like Tyron Hopper is on the verge of passing Isaiah Simmons up. Do you guys agree, disagree with that?
This guy agrees. This Tim guy in Green Bay agrees 100%. And that's not to dog Isaiah Simmons, but I think, the growth of Tyron Hopper should not be understated right now.
Yep.
We saw him last year. We wanted to see him make these steps. Now he's putting it together in real game, speed, and we've seen it on film. He's got the youth thing going for him, right? Longer shelf life. And again, not a knock on Isaiah Simmons, but if you told me right now, who would I pick? I'd probably go with Tyron Hopper right now.
Yep. I agree with that. Emilio, did you by chance see it was Hafley talking about how even while Quay has not been practicing, he's had the red dot or the green dot on, forgive me. And that during the practices, he's listening to everything. During the game, he was right next to him with the green dot on, listening to everything. He went on to say that based on, because sometimes some of the calls, they get a little lengthy. And he goes, he can basically now with the 3 first words that I state in any sort of play call I'm calling in, he looks at me and he knows the rest of what I'm going to say. And he said, that's something that didn't happen in years prior. And that means that even though Quay, again, one of those guys that we wish were on the field, getting to gel with these guys and have all the time in the world, he's not just sitting on the sidelines and watching. He's still engaging his mind and his mental capabilities, which, sometimes may even be a blessing in disguise, because when you're on that field, your adrenaline, your emotions, your lack of, wind are going to affect how you're thinking. But if he has a second to really sit there and only be mental, only watch everything, listen to everything, maybe he processes that and absorbs that information a little better, which in the long run will lead him to be a better linebacker for this team. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And I was listening to that too. Yeah, he's got the headset in. He knows the play. He's finishing the calls. That just makes it easier on Hafley, because if he already knows the play coming in, okay, Hafley can give him that next little note before the 16 seconds is up. Hey, while you're at it, look at that slot coming across. Maybe they like to run motion bubble out of here, whatever, something like that. Just super simple. But he already knew the play call coming in and getting that out there. And again, you didn't have that signal caller. I'm excited to see Quay and Coop take off. But I think Hopper can fill in those spots. I think that, McDuffie can fill in those spots. And Simmons kind of needs to show it. He's got 2 games, to make a name for himself.
Yeah, as Coach Lynn says here, is Simmons in trouble for the 53? If we see another week like last week, Coach, I think so. He looked bad in the run fit. He looked bad in coverage. It was a tough look for Isaiah Simmons. And if you listen to the coaches like Halfley saying we're asking him to do a lot, right? He's trying to kind of settle him down like, hey, it's early. We're good, right? We're good. But when a coach has to say that, you want a coach saying what they were saying about Edgerrin Cooper last year. When they come at him in the media and go, he's got a lot to work on. He needs to learn how to fit this, fit that. That's how you know that dude's actually turning the corner because they're going to, what we say, praise in public, right, and criticize in private.
Right.
When you're talking from an honest approach. In that case, when you're criticizing in public, that player's probably in a pretty good standing with the coach, in my opinion. It's those guys that they're not talking about that typically, don't make the cut. So, yeah, with Simmons, it's tough. Like Weed says here, I hope I said that right. I apologize if I did. Simmons will make it for special teams, even if he sucks on defense. I
feel that way about Christian Welch. I hope Christian Welch
Tim, I feel about Bo Melton too, right? Like there's several players you could say that same thing about, which is a good thing.
And not to say that Christian Welch sucks on defense because he doesn't suck on defense. It's just probably not his strong suit when compared to the value a guy like that adds in special teams, I think.
Yeah, Reef here says, I feel bad for McDuffie always getting overlooked. Reef, I know we're overlooking him, but the coaches aren't. To me, he is that third linebacker.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Jacob. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to highlight that and say that if anything, if anyone other than Quay has got the green dot, I'm pretty sure it's Ben McDuffie that's filled into that role almost seamlessly in the past, where I just feel like the unknown, same thing like we said about some of the other guys, that Simmons may have a higher ceiling that we haven't potentially tapped, but I think that Isaiah McDuffie's floor is something that the Packers defense is just more comfortable with, knowing what they're going to get from him.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move it along here as we're going to get into, let's see up stack backer. Let's go ahead and talk corner real quick, all right? So cornerback, Keyshawn Nixon, Nate Hobbs, Javon Bullard. Those are your starters in your nickel 4-2-5, obviously Bullard being in the slot, okay? Now, after that, who do we have here?
Oops, sorry, my bad.
That's all right, man. Sorry. After that, who do we got? So, again, we got Keyshawn, we got Nate Hobbs, we got Javon Bullard. So, next on the depth chart, according to our lads, is Bo Melton, Carrington Valentine, Kalen King. Carrington's the only one I feel for sure on there, right? So there's 4. Now the question becomes, who's going to be your 5th, and do you carry a 6? Would your 5th be Kalen King, or would it be Bo Melton up to this point? And if you carry 6, is there a chance that Micah Robinson could creep up? Still one of those spots.
I say we keep Bo and Kalen King.
Yeah, sure.
So you want to carry
we stash Micah Robinson, right?
Yeah, you could probably get away with that. I imagine you would probably – I don't know, though. We got away with stashing Kalen King last year. It's not like there's a whole lot of tape out there.
You watched that game on Saturday, Clay? He looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did. You're right. Do you think one game in the preseason that would warrant somebody going, hey, look, that's worth a stab at? I mean, I guess it depends on the room, right, Tim? How bad
that's what I was thinking, right? You're right. Like it's not a sure, slam dunk, but you got to think he's got to be rotating on some radars. I mean, there's some pretty banged up secondaries across the league. I mean,
definitely more than Micah, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's my point. Yep.
It's a great point. Yeah. What do you guys think? Jacob?
It would be something where the Lions would come in and snag King and take him over to their squad.
Oh, my gosh. Don't say it to me.
You don't say that.
You don't say that.
I'm just saying it's something they would do.
Especially
they are banged up in the secondary.
Terry and Arnold went down, right, recently, so –
was it Terry and Arnold or was it
Rakestraw? Forgive me.
But they also lost a safety, right, as well?
Yeah, they've lost somebody about every position, it sounds like, man, to be honest with you.
I guess the only way that I'd push back on that is because I kind of agree with Coach Len. It's like if we want to keep 6 D linemen, meaning those D tackles, that's kind of going to push against that. That's, again, if we want to keep 3 tight ends or even 4 tight ends, if we're going to keep 3 running backs or 4 running backs, like
that's a great point by the coach, right?
Right.
We think about these rooms and these groups. We got to realize it's 53 spots, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else on the cornerback room, fellas? We good?
Glover, he could play, right?
He could play, he could probably play. I think he could play slot. I don't think he's quick enough to play
I'm
boundary.
telling you. And Kalen King didn't really play slot in college anyway. I mean, I think he had like less than 50 snaps or something like that in college at slot. So we are asking him to go outside the box here a little bit.
That's kind of a recent thing, right? We saw him in the slot kind of recently.
I don't remember it last year, Tim. I think you're right, man.
No, I'm thinking like as recently as like the last couple of weeks, they've been working him into the slot. Maybe because Nate Hobbs is, dealing with what he's dealing with right now.
Could be, yeah. All right, let's move on to safety here. Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, those are your starters. Catano, Ladapo, Zane Anderson. We know Zane Anderson's battling a little bit of an injury. Last year, we broke camp with 5 safeties. And again, you guys know how I feel about this. I think Javon Bullard is going to be listed. He may not be listed as a corner, but for me, he's definitely our starting nickel back, right? So how comfortable are you with Kalen King kicking into the starter role if a safety goes down? Do you throw Javon Bullard back there in your nickel 4-2-5? He'll definitely be playing safety if one of the 2 top safeties go down in your base. But McKinney and Evan Williams, and you got Catano Ladapo, Zane Anderson, then Omar Brown, Jonathan Baldwin, and, of course, Garnett Hollis Jr. For me personally, if we're treating Javon Bullard like he's strictly a slot corner, right, and I had to pick 5 out of this group, and everybody's healthy, I'm going McKinney, Williams, Oladapo, Anderson, and my 5th between Jonathan Baldwin and Omar Brown, I think I'd probably go Omar Brown for the reason that Tim brought up and the fact that there's some tape out there of Kalen King, right? So he'll probably get poached. There's some tape of Omar Brown there for what he's done here.
Indiana, baby, let's go. Is he Indiana or Nebraska?
Nebraska.
Red and white jerseys.
Yep.
Nebraska. Omar Brown, UDFA. Let's go.
Yep.
What do you think, Emilio? How do you see the safety room, man? Do you think who would be your 5th if you did put Javon Bullard as a nickel corner?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's gotta be Omar. Honestly, I think he's shown enough at this point. The push is, what's up with Zane? Is he going to be injured going into the season or not? That's going to be a big tell. And it's one of those things where, we were trying to figure out the 53 for weeks now. We're still going to figure it out as it's coming up, but you'll get an injury here or there. Somebody might need to be added to the pup, and then you sneak in another guy. We were worried about not getting enough guys. Hey, maybe we snuck this guy on through just the 53 cut because there was an injury to Zane at safety, as an example, and then hey, we got an extra linebacker on or something along those lines. So if we don't need him back right away, I don't I could see them sliding him on pup, or if it's worse than we thought, that could be an option. But it's got to be Omar if we're choosing another guy.
As Weed says here too, if Bullard is counted as a cornerback, just keep 4. Let's approach it that way, Jacob. If you look at the safety room here, McKinney, Williams. Would it be Oladapo and Zane Anderson, or would you keep Omar Brown over one of those 2 guys? If everybody's healthy, of course.
Boy, that's a tough one there. That kind of throws another curveball into the situation, huh? But, does Zane Anderson have enough tape on film where people – I mean, obviously you got the PFF grade. That alone sometimes is enough to sway, teams and front offices to try to take a stab at some of these guys. I understand that sentiment if Bullard was just counted as a cornerback, but I believe Hafley and LaFleur both mentioned that because of the injury to X, that Bullard's going to have to be playing a little more safety than they envisioned him playing at this point in the preseason in camp. And they also said it was kind of a tough line to walk because they wanted to have him play that nickel spot more and not have to be cross-trained, which again was part of the reason that I believe Emilio brought that up quite a lot last year, that he would never have much continuity. Like all of a sudden he'd be training all week for a certain position. And all of a sudden the night before, hey, guess what? You're going to go back to safety now. Now, guess what? You're going to be back in the slot. And that just to me is not setting a player up for success. A guy with the caliber of draft stock of a Bullard. And you guys know that I absolutely loved the guy. I thought he was going to be the coolest thing since sliced bread. And, I'm not ready to give up on him in any way, but I also think that the coaches, we talked about earlier how coaches could be quote unquote the issue. injuries forcing coaches to play players in other positions, I don't think that you can blame either the player or the coach. It just is an unfortunate circumstance. And I hate to see Bullard have to be spread to multiple positions again and not get to hone in on what he could be best at. So that's my only pushback on that. But if it does happen, I'd be comfortable keeping 4 safeties because the 4 safeties are going to be, I'd argue, probably one of the better safety groups in the whole NFL.
Yeah,
Tim,
as
what
long
do you
as
think, man, if you had to carry 4?
one of those safeties would be
dog. He is an absolute dog.
So if we go for, it's X, it's, E Will, it's KT, and then Zane if he's healthy, right? Cool. If Zane's not healthy, then it's Omar Brown, possibly, if you're going to go for 4 safeties, right? Maybe Jonathan Baldwin, I don't know. But I think there's validity to that point. Like it's tough to, we heard Coach Bisaccia talking about, we got to get our guys ready to play, in all phases all the time, be ready to go. You never know when your number is going to get called. That's the emphasis, but the execution is another thing. Clearly, since Javon Bullard has come to Green Bay, his strong suit seems to be being a nickel corner.
Yep.
Safety play is difficult for him. So unless we see a jump, then, I don't know. Maybe that is the approach. There's a good point to that comment, right? Maybe we keep 4 safeties and consider Bullard a corner.
Right. And as Jen Wright says here too, Zane Anderson, special teams demon. You guys are seeing a theme here. We've said that about 4 or 5 different positions, right? That tells me, I'm just saying, don't be surprised if the special teams coverage takes a pretty significant step forward this year. I would not be surprised one bit.